Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about The Better to Eat You With, collected long fiction by Wesley Southard. Look at that fantastic cover by Trevor Henderson. Spooky, crazy stuff. So, first of all, this was sent to me by Summer Cannon. She got it from Wesley Southard because it is signed to me. So, but she was kind enough to send me a copy of this book. As I said, it's collected long fiction. Oh, and this is from South of Heaven Press. It contains three novellas, two of which I had previously read, but I read them again as part of this collection. The first story is Closing Costs, which is about a excuse me, a realtor who's trying to sell this house where some horrible murders took place, or a horrible murder took place. The killer was never caught, and he's trying to sell this to this rich Russian guy and his wife. The Russian guy's a music producer. His wife's a supermodel, and it's a horror story. So things don't go as planned. Very quickly, so I'm not going to do my too long didn't watch rating early. Not going to do that this time because I want to talk about each of these first. So, Closing Costs, I read it back when it came out, which was I think it might be at the end of the book that's going to tell me that. Closing Costs has a copyright of 2018. And when I read it, possibly reviewed it. I don't remember if I reviewed it on here. Might have been when I wasn't doing things. But I checked my Goodreads. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's the first thing I ever read by Wesley Southard. I really enjoyed it. I really liked the characters. I liked the surprises. It starts off with kind of a cold open, a very graphic, bloody, what the hell is going on kind of cold open before we're introduced to our realtor, Herschel Merkley, and we're introduced to him and his wife, and it's the big day. He's kind of nervous. He wants to make this sale, and really fully fleshed out character. And then we meet the Russians, and then things go nuts. And I really, really liked it. And so I gave it 4 out of 5. The second story in here is One for the Road. This originally came out, or at least has a copyright, of 2019. It was published by Deadite Press, and I believe is a Splatterpunk Award winner. This is about a band, mainly about Spencer Heston. He's the one telling us the story. He's the guitarist for this heavy metal band that are finishing up their tour, heading back to their hometown, and he and one of the other band members are secretly planning on quitting the band once they get back to their hometown. But, well, let's see. They end up, all of them wake up in the van, not knowing where they are, not knowing how they got there, and some really, really crazy shit starts happening. So, again, I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Not sure how much I like Spencer Heston. I found him a bit annoying, but not in a bad way. It's interesting because to me anyway, maybe you won't find this interesting. I just recorded a review for another book, and I disliked the majority of the characters, and that had a negative impact on how I felt about the book, because I don't think I was supposed to dislike all of those characters. I'm not a huge fan. Spencer Heston isn't the worst character ever, but there are things about him I don't like. But that didn't affect how I feel about the story. And I don't know, I can't put my finger on why there's a difference between these two things. The other book that I read and reviewed and this story. And I think it might be intent. I wasn't meant to dislike those other characters, but here I think they're supposed to be, possibly, I could be completely wrong. If Wesley Southard can tell me, I'd like to know. Because there are reprehensible characters in this story. One for the road. But Spencer comes off a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily egotistical, self-righteous. That's what I'm looking for. Comes off as a little self-righteous in certain points in his narrative. Which, good on him. He could have covered that sort of thing up. But he does say, I think in parts, that he wants to be completely honest about everything that happened here. So really well-written characters. And I really enjoyed the really reprehensible characters. This story gets crazy. I would potentially put it, if I had to label it, and I don't have to, but I'm going to anyway, bizarro. It gets wild. There's some crazy stuff that happens. I really, really enjoy it. I like when an author goes wild and does this crazy kind of stuff. And so kudos to Wesley Southard for that. So that was 4 out of 5. So we got the first 2 stories in here, 2 out of 3, 4 out of 5. So the brand new story is called Threesome. I believe it's the longest story in here. And it's essentially about this young couple, who are getting married in a few short months. And as a sort of a last hurrah, they have a threesome. The wife, let me check some names here. Bran is the husband, and Christine is his fiancée. She has a friend at work, could be into it. So a threesome it is, and then it's basically the repercussions. Some crazy, wild, unforeseen, out of control repercussions of this threesome. And I want to know why Wesley Southard hates me. What did I ever do to him? I've read his books. I've given them honest reviews. And I think they're all positive. And this is how he repays me. He kicks me in the groin. He punches me in the throat. He reaches into my chest and crushes my heart. This story it's a gut punch. The things that happen, the things that Bran goes through. And Christine, and the other part of their threesome, who I believe her name is, I want to say Riley. Paisley. I think that's her name. Let me look. Let me take a quick look and see if I can find it. Very quickly. I know it's got to come up. I don't know. I think it's Paisley, though. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. All very interesting characters. Very flawed characters. This story spans a large amount of time. There are some crazy twists and turns, although there is a point where I pretty much knew where something was going. A pretty good idea of what was going to happen. But it's the character work, it's the emotional impact of this story. So just this story probably give it 4 out of 5, 4.5 maybe. It's incredibly powerful. There are a few problems with the writing, but overall, an intense story, incredibly intense story. But here's the thing, and this is why I saved the total rating for this book. The Better to Feed You With by Wesley Southard from South of Heaven Press. For this book, I gave it 5 out of 5. As a complete package, even though you have a 4 out of 5, a 4 out of 5, excuse me, terribly sorry, 4 out of 5, a 4 out of 5, and then a 4.5 out of 5. As a complete package, the book itself is a 5 out of 5. I loved it. I loved revisiting the older stories, and I like seeing the growth of an author. We're looking at one of his earliest books. I think he only had one book previous to Closing Costs, which was The Betrayed. I have that. I have an older copy. I think there's a new, or I know there's a new edition, but I think it's the older edition that I have. Not 100% sure. But The Betrayed, and then Closing Costs, and then One for the Road a year after that. And then we jump from 2019 to 2024 with Threesome. And looking at this list, also from Wesley Southard, I have everything that's on here. I haven't read it all, but I do have it all. And there is an afterword where Wesley Southard talks a little bit about each story, which is always nice. I enjoy that. Love story notes, that kind of thing. And he talks a little bit about the journey. And so, again, even though every story isn't a 5, the book itself is absolutely a 5 out of 5. I loved it. This is a perfect example of why I buy and eventually read everything that Wesley Southard does, because he's just a fantastic author, and I don't know what else to say about it. So The Better to Eat You With, collected long fiction, Wesley Southard, 5 out of 5 stars. Pardon me. Been talking for a long time now. This is my last video of the evening. Recommendations. Well, I mean, I would just recommend the other Wesley Southard stuff that I have read, which would be Slaves to Gravity, which he co-wrote with Summer Cannon. I actually bought that book twice. I bought the original publication, and then I bought the second edition because I liked the cover better. And I can't remember if I bought it directly from one of them, so I got it signed. But Slave to Gravity, a really interesting, fun book. The Final Gate, co-written with Lucas Mangum. A love letter to Lucio Fulci, a part of Fulci's Seven Gates of Hell trilogy. It's a fantastic book. One I might revisit. There's not enough of that Italian Lucio Fulci out there in the literary world, at least that I know of. Judith Sonnet has a couple books, Hell and Hell, City of the Killing Dead. Got it right this time. And then there's The Final Gate. Try Again. Another Wesley Southard. That's what I'm talking about here. I'm recommending Wesley Southard books. Try Again. Really interesting book that I don't want to say too much about because it would kind of give things away, but I recommend it. You can look it up, read the back cover copy if you like, but I'm not going to say too much about it. So Slaves to Gravity, Final Gate, Try Again. Highly recommend all of those. Looking at this list, so I haven't read The Betrayed or Cruel Summer or Disaster Pieces, which he wrote with Wiley Young. It's actually 2 novellas. They each wrote a novella that kind of go together. And then his other short story collections, Resisting Madness, collected short fiction, and They Mostly Come at Night, collected short fiction. I have both of those. I haven't read those yet. But there you go. Those are my recommendations. I don't have a question for this video. So if you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll put the links to my Twitter, Instagram, and Bluesky in the description below. And that's all I have. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith. And until next time, read more books.